Oh,
Holy fuck, that was nice.
Are we recording right? Did you? You got some? I just turned the fucking screen on. I'm joking, man. And I was wearing fucking Steve Santucci. I was. It was so hot. I wasn't wearing a sweatshirt. So Steve Santucci took his sweatshirt off, and he's like a 3X. And I go, "My God, your sweatshirt makes me look fat now."
It'd be like that.
Look at these guys, man. How am I associated with them? It's terrible.
Oh, well. Since we've been recording for the last few minutes, let's kick this shit off. Welcome to the Micro Machines podcast. This week we have a very special guest on, someone who likes to talk a lot, has got a funny accent, and is a good friend of mine. But before we get
You're
into
not talking
things,
about yourself?
well, I was, but, you had to ruin the surprise.
Oh, okay.
But before we get into that, we'll probably do some usual introductions. So we'll go with the podcast members first, and then we'll have the special guest introduce themselves. So first, you have me, Callum, from New Zealand, drinking a nice 2.5% beer because I needed to drive last night at a barbecue. That's the only reason. Garrison?
You got me, Garrison, out here in Kansas, drinking a Jack Daniels and Coke with some coffee on the side and building an M5A1.
Clint?
You got me, Clint, in Indiana, and I got a nice bottle of Ice Mountain 100% natural spring water.
Weirdo.
Oh my God!
You need a bit of malt and hops into that.
Yeah.
And lastly, we have a very special guest on this episode. Special guest, would you like to introduce yourself?
Again, I'm Rob Riv. I'm from Long Island, New York, if you could tell by the accent. I am an avid armor modeler. I'm also the host of the Modeling Insanity podcast, which is a podcast that is based around all general modeling for the most part. I'm on the podcast with 4 other guys who I'd rather not say their names here, but I will. Justin Ryan, Steve Santucci, Rob Adams, and Frankie Donati, and it's a pretty good show. So if anybody has an opportunity to take a listen, you take a listen. But I'm glad to be here with you guys and talk the hobby and have some fun.
Well, I can definitely tell you, mate, I've been looking forward to this one. This is going to be good.
Indeed, We're glad to have you, man.
I'm glad to be here, guys, and I'm looking forward to... I'm not used to not seeing you guys. Usually on our podcast, we do have a video screen, so we do work off of visual, which is good and bad in some ways because some of the guys are not the healthiest guys in the hobby, so looking at them is not the best. If you listen to the show, you always hear me telling Steve Santucci to either shut his camera off or put a bag on his head, but for the most part, we do get through the show, but we do use visual cues sometimes. So, but it's going to be it'll be interesting to see how we do. But I'm glad to be here, guys.
Actually, you know what? Let's do something a bit different. Garrison, Floki, Clint, turn your camera on. Why not?
You're gonna do the camera thing, really?
I don't have a camera. My shit busted during a VA appointment literally 2 days ago.
How'd you do that?
It fell off because I had it set up on my PC and it fell off, and the fucking USB port finally snapped.
Oof.
And
Yeah.
I don't have a camera on my desktop. I'd have to go to my phone, which then I couldn't use my microphone.
Don't worry about it. I'll look at Callum. You guys are fine. I can see your pictures. I'm visualizing you guys talking, but I'm glad. Yeah, we don't need. Listen. If you want to keep the cameras on, that's fine. It's all good.
Hey,
all right.
You don't have to look at my ugly mug for this, so consider yourself lucky.
Same.
I'm kind of looking forward to him getting rid of that group photo of us at the Amps Nationals because I see Rob Adams. Ugh, that was a bad thing. He's hammered drunk, that guy. Now, good times, good bunch of guys on that podcast, and we've been around. We've been going now. It'll be a year anniversary. On June 12th will be a year that we released the first episode But the Insanity was an offshoot of the Modeling Miscreant podcast, which was the original podcast that I was on with a couple of other guys, which went on for quite a while. But like everything, it's not sustainable in some ways. Everybody needs to get along. Sometimes egos get in the way, and it was time to move on to do our own thing. So that's where we're at. Oh, look at me soldering.
All right.
That's
So
me doing a,
in,
that's me,
in-
and that's me doing a demo at the AMPS 2023 Nationals in Camp Hill, Pennsylvania.
oh,
It was a
nice.
really great demo. It was really good. There was about 50 or some odd people there.
Oh shit!
Nice.
Damn.
Yeah, that was a good demo. That was a really good demo.
All right. Well, in usual Micro Machines fashion, for our interview, we usually do an interrogation interview.
Bring it on. I love
So-
it. I'm excited. I love it.
So we're going to start with the first two. The first two questions sort of meld together. So, just who is Rob Riv, and how did you get started into this hobby and to where you are now?
What am I? Well, I've been, as anybody, I started as a young guy, young kid in the hobby. My father was really into like scale, like railroad trains. So as a kid, I would always be with my father when he was doing this project that he never finished. My dad was my age when he passed away, and he kind of like was always building shit for his like this big trains thing that he had in his basement, and it was always working on it, but he never fucking did the trains. Freaking always was working on tracks and working on these HO scale trains or whatever they were, and he never. I never seen him run a train before, but he was always building something down there. So I'd always go to the hobby shop with my father, and I was always amazed at like as and I'll be 50 this year, so it kind of tells you the time period. But back in like the late 70s, early 80s, you go to the hobby shop and you would have like the old Monogram kits, the old Tamaya kits, and you would see them like in the display cases, and that's how I really got into it. And then teenage years playing sports, you get away from it, but I got back into the hobby probably like in the early to mid 90s, and I haven't stopped. It's been going on 30 plus years, hardcore ho- you know hardcore hobby for me, and I love it. I'm all about German armor, Russian armor, World War II, but I do everything in a lot of ways, armor wise, and some sci-fi, but for the most part I'm an armor guy. And when I first saw the Tony Greenland Osprey book, his Panzer Masterclass book from Osprey, Panzer Modeling, is really what hooked me to get into the hobby the way I am into it today, where the scratch building, the photo etch, and the really clean builds. And that's where I kind of realized what I wanted to do and the path that I wanted to take in the hobby. So that's kind of what I did at the time. And like, again, it's been quite a few years now, but me now as a the type of model that I am, I'm known more for my builds, but I do paint, and people bust my balls about not painting all the time. And sometimes I got to break out a painted model or enter a show occasionally just to shut everybody up. But I do prefer to build more than paint, but I do paint. And it's funny because when I go to like a show like the Nationals we just had in South Bend, Indiana, and I have my naked model display with some painted models, and when people see them in person, they're like, "Oh, you can't paint that." I'm like, "Why are you telling me I should paint on Facebook? You bust my balls. I'm not painting about not painting." And then we see it in person, and then you say you can't paint that. So that's really how it usually goes. So,
Damned
but
if
that's
you
where,
do, and damned if you don't.
yeah, and I really enjoy building. And it's very relaxing to me. I'm a cancer survivor. I'm 10 years cancer free. I'm a colon cancer survivor. I say this on our podcast, and I've said it before. So I live every day like it could be my last. And I remember a time when I was really sick and I couldn't build, and I wanted to get in the room to build and relax. And once I was able to get back in there, realizing how relaxing it is to just be building and doing stuff that you love. And I'm not saying that I don't love other things in my life. My family, my wife, my kids, my friends love it. But there's something about sitting at your bench and just building a model and just enjoying yourself. And it's something that really relaxes me. And in our group, the Insanity group, we have build rooms. Callum comes in often. We run build rooms. We've been doing it since the beginning. We were doing it in the old group as well, but on Discord, it's open all the time. And some nights we get 20 plus guys in a room, depending on the night. Sometimes mostly 15 ish on average.
Wow.
But we might get 20 plus guys coming in and out of a room on a given night. Callum has been there when we've had quite a bit of guys. And most of the time, everybody's busting my balls, coming after me, taking shots at me all the time because they're trying to get a response out of me, right, Callum? But,
Yeah, that's why I go after Rob Adams.
Yeah, well, thank you. I try to go after him too, but it's a lot of fun, and that just shows you the camaraderie and the friendships that you form in this hobby. I know Callum was telling me about how you guys were formed as a group, and I thought it was very interesting because not often do you see guys from all over the world in a podcast together. It doesn't usually work like that. But it's really interesting how you guys have this dynamic. The Insanity group is, we're all friends and we've been friends for quite some time. So when I started the Insanity podcast, I knew who I was going to bring with me on that podcast. So Steve Santucci, if you guys listen to the show, realize that he takes the brunt of my insults and my joking around. It's just the way it is. But he knows he's a good friend and I love him. Justin Ryan's another guy who I've been good friends with, as well as Rob Adams and Donati. Rob Adams runs the Model Makers Union, and that's a pretty big Facebook group, and he's really a great modelist. So when he's sober, he's not interesting, but when he's drunk, he's fucking hysterical. And Frank
Understandable.
Donati, and Frank Donati, who is now he's the IPMS Canada president for IPMS. So that's why I got him on the show, so I can keep an eye on him now. But he's a great guy, and he's a lot of fun. He brings a good dynamic to the podcast. So, I mean, I hope I didn't talk too much. I can go on forever. You got to stop me at some point.
What do you mean? This is like giving my voice a week off. I mean,
I'm used to running these types of interviews, so it's great to be the interviewee, I guess.
Right. Man, good. Glad to hear that you survived cancer, man. That's
man. 41 years old,
it's a big
diagnosed
deal.
with colon cancer. I'm a big believer in go get your colonoscopies. Don't take anything for granted, and take care of yourself, and just live a healthy life and enjoy yourself. That's all you can do. That's why I'm always having a good time, because you never know when you're not going to be having a good time. So enjoy.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. The hobby definitely does more for people than what others outside the hobby think. Not just building a model and saying hi to mates. It's like, there's definitely way more that goes on for it, and way more beneficial things.
I mean, my outlook about the hobby, especially today, and most people who do know me personally know that I'll always promote this hobby in a positive way. I'll always try to help whoever needs help. If anybody comes to me for advice about stuff in the hobby, not saying that I'm that type of modeler that is, worthy of giving people advice on how to do things and whatnot. But, I do get approached by people for help, and I'll never hesitate to help anybody, especially with the podcast and, doing things for the magazine and stuff and things like that. People sometimes feel like they're bothering you if they message you or approach you about things and stuff like that. But I encourage it, because I'll always promote this hobby in a positive way. That's the reason why I started the podcast. I mean, it's a platform for me, just like you guys are with your podcast. It's a platform to talk the hobby, spend time with friends, have some fun, and give your point of view and your opinion, your take on a great hobby. Now, this hobby's done a lot for me. It's like I said, it was there for me at my darkest times in my life, and to not have that in my life, or to not give back to the hobby. And the only way you can give back to the hobby is by helping other people improve or enjoy the hobby or see the good in the hobby. That's my mission right now as a podcast host, as someone who contributes to, other groups or publications, things like that. I'll always be out there to help people. That's what it's all about. So
that's really good. So you see not really much anymore, but there used to be a whole bunch of, I guess you call them the old school guys that, it's like they would guard any trick or technique they had like it was gold.
Right.
Facts.
Yeah. No secrets anymore. And I know the people that you're talking about, and I was in the mix with those people years ago, and it was always a trade secret how they did things. People didn't want to give secrets away, or how they did things, techniques and stuff. But I think over time that's kind of it's kind of dissipated in a lot of ways, because I think the secrecy of things is how techniques are going is subsided in a lot of ways, but we're talking about a time when products that weren't readily available today weren't available then. So people had to make their own types of supplies, their own paints, like weathering products. Like back in the day, pre 2000, you wanted to weather your models, you were getting, your pastel chalks and grinding them. You were getting your Winsor Newton or Rembrandt oil paints and using them to weather. And you did things on your own because you didn't have weathering products that were readily available to you. It wasn't until MIG came out with his MIG production pigments back like in 2000, 2001, I think it was, ish, around that time, where he found out that he could take tile grout pigments and turning them into modeling stuff. That's really what it is. It's tile grout pigment. And it was a big thing back in the day, the brouhaha that came about. You guys are too young to remember a website called World War II Model Maker. And it was run by a guy named Gerard. And Gerard found out back how MIG did his pigments. And he came out with his own pigments called MMP powders. I talked about it on our own podcast. And it caused a big rift in the armor community because MIG thought that his idea got stolen. Like you have like the patent for like pigments. But that was a time when that's the time when things started coming out. And then, now you got your freaking pre-mixed weathering enamels and all this stuff. Weathering, every single weathering product is available today. 23, 24, 25 years ago, you didn't have that. So that's why people kept a lot of those techniques close to the vest, because they were coming up with and they were using their own techniques that they didn't want people to know about. But now there's no secrets because everybody uses the same shit. That's why all the models today look the same. You go to a show, you look at stuff on Facebook. There's a reason why everything looks the same, because everybody's using the same weathering products. Everybody's watching the same YouTube channels. Everybody's watching this, reading the same publications or looking at the same models on Facebook or Instagram, and everybody's doing the same shit. And now, if you notice, a lot of the over-weathered model stuff is kind of subsiding now. That fad is kind of going away. People are moving back to the old school, realistic type modeling type of stuff. Because the over-weathered models, yeah, it looks cool, but in person, it doesn't look as great as it does in a photograph, in my opinion. So,
yeah.
Sorry, we went off a tangent. So.
Hey, we do that all the time here. No worries.
What else you got for me, Cal? What are we talking about?
All right.
I see your cursor moving. What do you want to talk about? Photo-etch?
All right, yeah. So one thing that you are definitely well known for is your photo-etch skills, and, something that I follow quite closely is how you do stuff. I'm waiting for that YouTube video about
yeah,
photo-etch.
You know what? We had that video was great. What happened is I have to recreate some of it because those who don't know, I had done a live Zoom soldering tutorial. It was about 2 hours long. It went really well, but the Zoom was set up for when I was talking and the camera was on me and what I was doing. It was showing what I was doing. But when someone was talking and asking questions, the camera moved to them. So there's big chunks of time where I'm soldering and other people are talking and you're not seeing what I'm doing.
Oh.
So I have to go and recreate it. I know people have been freaking hound. This guy, I'm not going to say his name, but he fucking hounds me every day asking me when the video is going to come out. And I'm like, dude, I'm working on it, man. I got to recreate a lot of it, but I plan on doing it. But yeah, about how. So photo-etch, like anything, like I said, the foundation for me with the photo-etch was Tony Greenland. He was an idol of mine when I first got back in the hobby, like back in the mid '90s. I don't know if you guys are familiar with his Osprey Panzer modeling book from Osprey. It was an amazing book. He did all like scratch building photo etch back in the day, and I was amazed by it. So that's when I started doing photo etch, and I must have destroyed I don't know how many sets of photo etch. Everybody's like, "Oh, you do it so neat and clean." It wasn't always neat and clean.
You got to start from somewhere.
Got to start from somewhere, and I wound up finding a technique that I was able to use that allowed me to do certain things with photo etch in a way where it looks neat, it's workable in a lot of ways, and it adds a lot to a build. I'm a big believer in what can you do to separate your model from somebody else's, right?
Yeah.
So I always use the analogy of if you're gonna, and I'm not a show guy anymore. I rarely, I haven't. The last show I entered was the Amps in 2022. I only did that because people were pissing me off about not painting, and I had to enter. But prior to that, I didn't enter for like 8 years, and I haven't entered since the 2022 Nationals. But I always say, what can you do to separate your model from somebody else's? So if you put, let's say, your Stug on a table next to another person who built the same Stug, what's going to be different between your model and theirs? Yeah, granted, it's going to be painted different, but it's got to look different. What can you do? And when you're using photo-etch or using aftermarket, and I don't want to get into 3D printing because I know if anybody's heard the 3D printing show that I did about 3D print, I took a lot of shit for that, but I still stand by my statements. But using these aftermarket products can really make your build separate from somebody else's, especially if you do it well. Now, listen, you can do photo etch and not do it well, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can, you have to
Know
be able
that
to
feeling.
execute it, right? And I truly think that adding and doing this stuff to your models, like not just the photo etch, but adding like your own weld beads or scratch building certain parts of the model or rebuilding things, makes it your own. So when I do a model, I usually try to make it my own. Like if you look at the screen, that Panzer 3N, wow, man, that took life out of me. I don't know if you have any other pictures of that besides that one, but that was a
Yeah.
lot of fun. But that was also very, very difficult because the photo etch that I used on that Dragon kit were not made for that kit. It was originally made for the Tamaya kit, which is dimensionally different than the Dragon kit. So a lot of things needed to be reworked, and I needed to elongate parts and solder parts, make things bigger. And it was just a lot more than just taking what was there and putting it together and putting it on the model. It's a lot of test fitting. I must have test fitted that turret Scherzen for like a week and a half before it actually got glued to the model.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
And I'm not talking about like an hour a night in a room. I'm talking 4 hours a night for like a week before I said, you know what? I've test fitted this enough. It's getting glued on. So yeah. So that model took a lot of life out of me. A lot,
Talk about some fucking patience.
Yeah.
patience, man. Even side skirts and Scherzen, man. That's probably the most difficult things to get right on a model photo etch wise. It's easy when it comes out of the kit and it's plastic because it glues in the right way. You glue the plastic side skirts on. But when you're dealing with metal, especially when you're dealing with something that's not specifically made, and if you look at that middle picture, you can see the turret bin is open. That's a workable turret basket on the back of that tank. Like that turret basket opens and closes.
Jeez.
I'm a sick bastard with that stuff. But
like
yeah.
how do you actually bend? One thing that always puts me off photo etch is anything that's curved. Like say, I tried to make a photo etch set for a M250 cal, and the one thing that got me was like trying to bend the cooling shroud, or what is it? It's got that just behind the barrel. It's got like the sort of heat sink shroud.
Uh-huh.
I was trying to, that was a bit of photo etch, and I just could not get it to bend how I wanted to. Like, how do you like
The
figure
reason
out?
why you probably one of the main reasons why people have problems bending photo etch, depending on the size, you have to make the brass pliable. So think of it like a blacksmith, right? You want to make a sword. You got a piece of metal. You're not just going to take that piece of metal and bang it with a hammer thinking you're going to bend it. You got to heat it to soften it to break down the properties. Now, I'm not a fucking alchemist, so I don't want people coming after me telling me I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm giving the bare bones, analogy. You have to soften the metal to make it bendable, pliable. So with brass, you have to anneal it under flame or hot heat, and you gotta break it down the properties. So with brass, for instance, for myself, if you want to make something round, what you need to do is you need to anneal it under a flame. So I use my stove upstairs with the thing. I put it in mortar because you don't want to burn yourself, but you want to heat the brass till like it starts like lighting up, and then you cool it down, and then it becomes pliable like a piece of like aluminum foil. That's what you want to do. The only way you can bend it properly is if you need a tool to bend it around. So you want to have the right diameter of metal rod or something to be able to bend something, whether it's really small or bigger. So they make like certain like Dot Display and a couple other companies. RP Tools makes like these round metal bars. I use dowels. You can use drill bits to bend your stuff around, which I do. But that's probably the reason why you couldn't bend it, Callum, or bend it the way you wanted to. Because when you bent it, did it spring back a little bit?
Not so much spring back, but it bent into it kind of didn't so much rounded as just folded itself. That was
Right.
that
Were
was
you
like my
bending it? Were you using like a? Were you bending it around something to make it shape, or were you just trying to bend it like just bend it without using something to bend it around?
definitely without something.
That's the problem.
This is when I had no idea how photo etch worked. Like
Yeah,
the
that's
very
you gotta.
yeah.
You always got to use a guide on
Mm,
when you want to make something round with photo etch or metal. One
yeah.
of the things that I do, and I should have sent it to you. I don't think it's too late, but I did a 1/48 scale Sturm Tiger, and I remade the shrouds. And people are like, "Oh, those shrouds are so cool. How'd you make them?" And I'm like, "You know how I made them? You get catering trays. You know, like when you go to to a party, they have the catering trays to put food in. Now,
Yeah.
most of them have ribs, but what I do is I take the catering tray, I cut it, I roll out the catering tray with like a big rolling pin, and then you can cut it. And what it is it's aluminum. It's very flexible, pliable, bendable, but it's not thin like aluminum foil. It's thick like a piece of brass, and it's totally bendable, and you can manipulate it like you could a piece of brass. And that's what I do in a lot of things too. Is I use aluminum catering tray, cut to size and made into whatever I need to make it to.
I'll be damned.
Can't solder it because it's aluminum, but you can glue it and it will stick. So that's a trade secret right there.
Damn, that's
Now,
something I'm gonna have to look into. Add to the collection of miscellaneous things I have in my model room. You know, got so many weird things I use for modeling. People go, "Why do you have this stuff in here?" It's like I don't have a good answer.
Right, but
I just use
catering
them.
tray, it's so big that you buy one tray. That's enough aluminum that's going to last you forever for like $1. You know, people keep talking about like lead foil. This is like lead foil. It's got the same. It has the same exact properties of like what a lead foil would do for you, in my opinion. So.
when you anneal some, do you ever water quench it, or you just let it air cool?
I water quench it because I'll burn myself.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I always dip it in water right away. And I
That's
always thought that had something to do with the bending, but it doesn't. Someone's like, "Oh, it has nothing to do with that." I'm like, "All right, well, I don't know, but I would dip it in water so I don't burn myself or anything."
so at work we're in or we work with rebuild aircraft engines and stuff like that. But our blades is like we heat treat them, and some of them get water quenched, some of them don't.
Right.
All has to do with the rock rail, the hardness of it.
Right. Yeah. For the brass, I'll always quench it in water just so I don't burn myself. You know.
Awesome. I'll have to try that then next time.
Yeah, give it a try. Yeah,
I still remember the first time I ever came across photo etch was an AMG NKL 26 Erasan, and there's a story behind that kit. It was I think it was like I was about six months into building after I'd just gotten back into it, and I thought I was starting to get like hot shit into building. Thought I was like, starting to learn everything. I thought I'm real. I was like, I'm better than I thought at this. And then I saw this kit, and I hadn't heard about it. I'm a subject builder. I build for a subject, not for the brand sort of thing. So I bought it, and I opened it up, and maybe a third of it is plastic, and then another third is white metal, and then the rest of it is not brass photo etch. As
it's probably nickel.
Yeah, and oh boy, I was humbled.
Yeah,
I was trying to build it, and I was getting frustrated. I'm going, what am I doing? How do I do this? What is going on? And I was trying to bend it, and it was like not bending in a straight line, it was bending with a curve to it, and I was getting frustrated. I'm going, what the fuck is, like, I've heard about photo etch. Why is this so shit? And I sat there at the end of it after it somehow managed to form the shape it should be, and I sat there and went, Yeah, I don't know jack shit.
Yeah, you know those companies that a lot of times like Tamaya, that photo etch that they put in their sets, you can't really solder it. Edward is all nickel based. You can't solder that shit.
Yeah.
That's not soldering. So I mean, the sets that I used, I mean, Aber's my number one. That's my company. Passion Models, Voyager, um, like what's another company? Passion. Did I say Passion Models? ET Models. These are companies that I readily use for their photo etch. Like if you look at the R35 on the screen, that's the bottom right, and the top right, those boxes, that's ET Models photo etch. The photo etch that's on the Panzer 3N in the middle, or the Stugs on the left. Believe it or not, that box on the back of the Stug is from the actual Riffield Models photo etch set. They give you photo etch to make that box, and that box is totally workable. I can open and close that box and latch those latches.
That's fucking
Jeez.
sweet.
I mean, that is a
and
gorgeous
same thing
box.
with those, and that jack block, the jack that's in the Stug there, that's the late Stug. Actually, in the June issue of Military Modelcraft International, was a 5-page build on that late Stug, how I built it, and it's a pretty good art. I mean, I don't know if you guys read Military Modelcraft International, but there's a cool build article on that. And that actually opens and closes and latches, so I can take that jack out and paint it off the model and then put it back in. If you want to do it.
Holy, that is
Yeah,
so
it's
cool.
totally workable. I make everything. If they design it to be workable, I'll make it to be workable. So it just makes it easier for everything. I guess, you know. Like for instance, the Panzer 3N in the middle. You see one mud guard on the right's up and one's down. They're all workable. The front and back mud guards all opening. They're all workable hinges. So yeah.
Damn.
And even that ET Models box on the side of the R35, that box opens and closes.
Damn.
Yeah.
See, like,
it's crazy.
Like looking at all of this and seeing how it's all, workable, I'm sitting there like, shit, I really want to, because I don't use photo etch because most of the models I buy are from like 1960 something.
Right.
But a lot of, like, you're saying, like, Voyager, Able, all of those. The one downside to me being in New Zealand, we don't get that stuff.
But I get shit from B&A all the time. I mean, you don't get stuff from B&A. I order from them. I got I pay that guy's rent every 2 months. The shit I buy.
B&A to get it over to New Zealand is horrendously expensive.
Really? I mean, I live in Long Island. I mean, I live on the other side of the United States from where Australia is. And you don't get, I don't know how, you're not the only one who said that. Andrew says it, Misi. As well as that fucking Robin Grant in the group from New Zealand too. You know Robin, right?
Yep.
I'm sorry for cursing. You can edit that out?
No.
Fuck
no.
I just want to make sure I don't want to get anybody in trouble, No, I love those guys, especially Misi, and Robin's a good guy. He gets mad that we don't talk about him more often. I'll talk about him on your show, but I won't talk about him on mine. But like, no. They say the same thing about having that B&A's takes forever to get stuff to you guys, which is odd because it's not like you're in this. Aren't you like right below Australia?
We're
to the east.
We're deceptively far away. We're actually like a 4-hour flight.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought you could swim across the water to them. I didn't realize you were that far away.
No, we're a 4-hour flight before we get to the closest part.
4 hours. I'm on the east end of the United States. I'm as far east as you can go compared next to Maine.
Yeah.
And it's like,
yeah, that's the part I don't get. Like, I've looked into it. For me to buy like a couple things, the shipping alone like doubles the price and a bit more. Just to get it over here,
I don't know how that is. I ship with DHL from them. I'll put an order in, let's say on a Monday. Now, obviously the time difference. Let's say it's Monday afternoon and Monday night. I'll order. I'll get a confirmation by Tuesday afternoon that it's packed and shipped. By Thursday, Friday, the package is at my doorstep.
Yeah,
damn.
I've ordered from B&A many times. Yeah. In fact, I can get stuff from them faster than I can from California.
Right, crazy. Two brothers. I get expedited this is what, and this is where Sprue Brothers is. I mean, I don't want to talk too bad about them because they're not. It's not a bad place to buy stuff, but the whole expedited shipping. It's $2 more for expedited shipping from Sprue Brothers, and the same. I did it once. I was like, let me see how long it takes to get to me. I did the regular shipping. It took like 5 days to get to me. And the next time I ordered, I was like, let me see. I'll do the expedited. Took 5 days to get to me. So what's the extra $2 getting me? Nothing.
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah. I see the. Do I see the next screenshot? Is that the? Do you have stuff from the article from the Samoa?
Yep. So that'll be a nice transition to the next one if this one's work. So you like to write articles and stuff like this. So next couple of slides will be all about that.
You doubled up page number 2, but you're forgiven. But it's okay.
I'm the editor.
Makes it look fuller.
Yeah, I can change stuff on the fly.
Yeah, no.
I mean, okay. I can do that.
No,
I have the power.
Yeah.
So, what got you into writing magazine articles, and also what's your process when writing one? Because between you and me, that's something that, hey, I'm busy enough, but I want to try just once just to see what it's like.
I was approached a few years back. One of my good friends, John Steinman, who's an amazing armor modeler. He's gotten stuff published for a long time. Had approached me to do a buddy build type article for Military Modelcraft. I built a Yag Tiger. He was going to paint it and put it on a dio. It was going to be a 2-part article. Part 1 was done. He painted it. We got the article done. He never finished part 2. It's been 5 years now. It's been like 4.5 years, 5 years. But he introduced me to Dave Grummett, who is the managing editor to Military Modelcraft International. Amazing modeler in his own right, but also editing this magazine. He's been the editor there for close to 15 years now. Military Modelcraft International, not because I do work for them, is a great magazine. It's probably the best military modeling magazine out there. It's got the highest volume of issues, distribution. But getting in the magazine because of John Steinman allowed me to get into working for doing stuff for the magazine. So now I do like these types of on the bench builds or featured build articles, but also do like a lot of reviews. I'm also doing some stuff. I'm the U.S. The associate tag is associate U.S. editor for the magazine, which is more of like a title where because I do a lot of work for them on an issue basis. I'm not just like an occasional contributor. But I also was just recently interviewed by Luke Pitt from Model Military International magazine, which is Brett Green is the editor. We did stuff for 148 scale. So I just did an interview with them. They also interviewed me about the podcast as well, which is really cool. But the process of editing, the process of writing an article, I'll talk to Dave and say, listen, I'm doing this. You think it'll be good for the magazine? 99.9% of the time, Dave wants it because I'm always going to do, if you can see here with the Samoa, I'm going to do builds like this, right, for the magazine. So he usually loves the builds that I do, and he always gives me the green light for them. Thing with these things is every step of the build, I have to stop and take pictures in the photo booth. So in my work room, in my work area, I have my build table as well as right next to me, I have my photo setup. So when I'm building, I got to get up, take a picture, and then sometimes come to my computer, make sure it looks good, and then I'll go back to building. Because if it doesn't look good, then I got to take another picture. If I assume the picture's good and it's not, but I kept on building, now I just lost that picture because the picture wasn't good. So it usually takes a lot more time. It probably adds another few hours, another 5 to 6 hours to a build because of taking pictures. But I enjoy it. Usually what I do is I take notes when I'm building on my phone. I like take any mental notes on what I do. But when I do for instance, Callum, I just sent you. I was telling you how I downloaded all those photos so far from the Panzer 1A, Panzer 3A that I'm doing, and it was like I had like 200 pictures already, and I'm only like not even done with the build. But what I do is those pictures kind of give me like a timeline of my build. So when I'm writing my article, I have the timeline of pictures. So I know what I was doing at all those stages, and I'm able to give like a narrative type um, write up for it. Now, there's two types of articles that you can do. I usually write my articles like in a narrative form, where I'm describing what I've done in within words. Like I'm giving, a breakdown of what I did, but I'm giving it like a book, kind of like I'm telling a story of how I built the model. And what I'll do is when I submit my pictures and my write up to the editor, and he gives it to the layout guy, they'll take my pictures, they'll choose what pictures they want to put in the magazine, and then they'll caption those pictures with some things, but they'll also number it another. You can see on the Samoa thing, you'll see like numbers next to it, and they'll find where I talked about that in my write up, and they'll put the number there to coincide with the picture. So I don't do that as the writer. I do that as I submit it, and then the editor and the layout guy choose what pictures to use, and also what captions to put with the pictures, as well as the numbers to the write up. But then there's caption type write ups. If you ever see like when 8K does their like books, like their like
Mhm.
how to books, for instance. Like for instance, Adam Wilder just did that layering book for 8K.
Yeah, yeah.
If you read that book, now he'll have a part of each chapter, he'll have maybe like a little write up at the beginning, but then he has what we call captioned write ups, meaning there's no narrative. It's all it is like a picture and what he's doing, a picture and what he's doing, a picture and what he's doing. That's easier to do, in my opinion, to do a caption type article or write up, because you don't have
Yeah.
to write things in a narrative form. This Samoa was 4 pages, and I think this write up was about 2,000 words.
Holy shit!
Oh wow.
Yeah, I think this write up was about 2,000 words, I think, if I remember right. It's definitely between 1,500 and 2,000. For the most part, I write pretty well, so it's not getting as edited out as possible. Sometimes the editor needs to remove some words to fit. Because you got to remember when they have when the magazine is committed for a specific month, they already have the advertisements set for the magazine. So they already know how many pages are allocated to advertisements. Then once they have the advertisement allocations for the magazine, that's how they know how many pages then can be dedicated to reviews, then write-ups. So if they already have like 4 people doing featured articles, let's say they're between 7 and 8 pages each, they know how many pages they need to have spread out across the magazine. So if they have to, let's say for instance, they say, well, you're going to get 5 pages, but this person's got 7, and then they look at it and it's let's say the magazine's 100 pages for Military Modelcraft. If there's not enough room for all the featured articles, they'll condense some of the write-ups and remove like sections of it, and they'll condense the pages to fit the magazine. So it's kind of a process of how they do it. I hope that explains it. I don't know if I didn't explain it well or not, but usually when you do your write-up, I pretty much get everything in there. But for instance, this Samoa article that you see, I probably submitted. So you see here, there's what, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. There's like 16 picks. I submitted like 150 pictures.
Whoa.
So
Wow.
out of 150 pictures, the editor and the layout guy Andy will pick the 15 pictures or whatever the amount of pictures they want to use for this. Okay, a good example is this. I just did for the June issue. Steve Santucci, who's my co-host on the podcast, did the show report for the magazine for AMPS Nationals. We got 9 pages dedicated to the show. I took all the pictures for the magazine, so I brought my photo setup to the show. I took pictures. There was 681 models at the show, but everybody knows how an AMP show goes. All the models don't come out the whole time, so I was only able to get about between 250 and 275 pictures of all the models. So I submitted 275 photo booth pictures, as well as almost all the pictures that were on the tables, plus a bunch of other pictures. And only 16 models are in the magazine.
Damn.
Oh.
So I took 250 plus pictures. Now that's great though. Listen, they love when you give them stuff, like you give them options. Because what I do is when I take pictures, especially for like my articles, I'll take a picture of the model in all different I'll take a picture from like front left, front right, back left, back right. I'll go up a little bit on my tripod. I'll take a little higher pictures, and I'll go up a little higher and take higher pictures. Maybe I'll go low and take low pictures. I'll get my macro lens, which I could take really up close pictures. Like if you see picture that number 3 right there, where you can see the light guards over there.
Mm-hmm.
Those light guards are like this smaller than your pinky nail. But I was able to take a macro picture of that, where it literally is like the size of your hand. That's how clear that picture is. So I'll send them all those pictures, because the more pictures you give them, the more they have to choose to do the layout, and they like that better. Because if you'd only give them like 10 pictures, they might not be 10 good pictures, you know. So
True.
All right.
sorry, I'm talking too much. What do you want to know?
No, this is
good,
exactly
man. You're
what
good.
you're explaining everything perfectly, man. Like, this is great. I love this.
Yeah.
So I guess like going into more of the sort of, come on, internet,
Yeah.
more of the Military Modelcraft International. So like you explained how you became the associate US editor for MMI,
Right.
but so what are some of the responsibilities of that role that they've given you, bestowed on you?
Well, really, what it is now is I'm going to say I'm not going to say it's an honorary title, but I do a little bit more for the magazine now than just a normal contributor does. So there are people who are listed as like contributors, but they might like submit maybe 2 or 3 featured articles a year, right? So for instance, somebody who, like, if you look at these covers here, the most recent issue is in the middle. That's the May issue. The issue prior with the Samoa is the one I was on. If you could see, it's on the back right part of the corner. But like somebody who's in the middle, or you know what? I think that who was that Brooker who did the King Tiger? I can't remember who did the King Tiger in the middle. I think that was Daniel Brooker. I think it was. He might submit like 2 articles or 3 articles a year to the magazine for a featured article. Now remember, there's 12 issues a year. There's usually 4 featured articles per magazine. Extrapolate that by 12. There's about 60 featured articles a year on average.
Mhm.
So if him as one contributor submits 3 articles or 3 featured articles a year, he's a contributor, but he is not in every magazine. Myself, I'm a contributor, but I contribute almost to every issue, whether it's a review, a build article, a featured article, or something like that. I'm in almost every issue. Like for instance, the May issue with the Vomag in the middle. BJ DeBecca, who's a good friend, who's always in our build rooms from Panzer Concepts, actually did the Vomag, the gun for that kit for Doswork. They used his design. So if you buy that kit, you'll see his what did I say? Panzerworks, Panzer Concepts company on there. But in the the May issue, I mean, the only thing I did for that issue was I did the 1/72 scale mini art Stug. That was a tough build. But that's the only thing that I did for that magazine. Now this magazine coming in June, I did 4 things for the magazine. I did the Stug build, which was a 5-page article. I did a Panzer IV-F, Tamaya's new Panzer IV-F Africa Corps. It was supposed to be in last issue, but they couldn't fit it, so they put it in this issue. So I got 2 pages for that. I also did Tankcraft. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Tankcraft. They just released their new titanium tools, tweezers, which are amazing actually. So I did a review of the tweezers, and I also have the 9-page amps show report with Steve Santucci. It's a lot. 17 pages I contributed to the next issue. So that's why they gave me that associate editor tag, because I'm contributing more to the magazine than a normal contributor does.
Okay.
I hope does that explain it? Like I'm not like determining who makes the magazine. That's not. Trust me, I don't have that clout to do that. But I'm also I'm contributing a lot more than just a normal regular contributor does.
Yeah.
So essentially, you're a preferred contributor.
Right. That's exactly what it would be. So like if there's something that Dave wants reviewed, or I get stuff like I get reviews from a lot of people, and I'll say this right off the bat. A lot of times when I reach out to companies, like I just got the Galeri airbrushes that I'm going to do a review for, and
Oh,
it's
hell
funny because
yeah.
everybody broke my balls because I
Yeah.
don't paint all the time. But I got the Galeri airbrushes. I get a lot of products from a lot of other companies. Panzer Work Designs, which it's a great company. He sends me stuff. Demon Barber Designs, and a lot of other types of companies will send me products to review. But a lot of times I tell them a lot of these companies, they're struggling too right now, and I don't like taking things for free. So a lot of times I'll pay for product to review. So I don't mind paying for things. Matter of fact, I actually prefer it because I'm not a taker. I rather pay for them. But a lot of times people send me things and I don't, I get things on my doorstep to review or to try out. But I get a lot of reviews from a lot of companies, and and that's stuff that'll always contribute to the magazine. So Dave knows that I get a review, I'm going to review it for the magazine. I'm dedicated to Military Modelcraft. They're a great magazine. But I am going to be doing stuff for Model Military International too, which is Brett Green's magazine as well. Doing some 148 scale stuff with Luke Pitt and everything too, which is I love 148 scale. That's a whole nother tangent of things to go on, but yeah.
So
That's pretty much.
for those who are like looking into doing that sort of stuff, contributing to say magazines and all that, like someone who has no idea on like
How to
how
do
to
it?
get started, how to contact
Right.
them, how to for someone who wants to get into that, what would be your advice of like how to get started?
It's not easy.
Hmm.
Right. It's definitely something that you need to be approached to do in some ways, especially with Facebook or stuff, maybe if an editor of the magazine. I've seen people do some stuff and I'll say, hey, listen, I'm going to hook you up with Dave or whomever, um, even their fantasy international magazine, some sci-fi stuff. That's usually how it is. Fine Scale magazine is probably one of the rare magazines where I would call it that they take solicitations, right?
Okay.
So one of the like Fine Scale magazine, which obviously they're in the news now because they kind of got bought out. They're going to a new ownership.
Hmm.
But with Fine Scale, you could write an article. You can send them pictures of your article or your build or whatever you did, and they'll accept it, pay you for it, but never publish it. That was their MO. So, for
Huh.
instance, a good example is this. When I say solicitations, I mean like you can solicit them and ask them if they would be willing to take your article. That's how a
Hmm.
lot of people would get into Fine Scale or some of those types of magazines, the combat, whatever, combat books, publications.
Yeah.
Like years ago, they didn't have digital print. So if you wanted to submit an article, you took pictures and you sent them your negatives and you sent them your article, and that they used it, they didn't. But what like Fine Scale is, you would write your article, take pictures, you would email them, send them your pictures. If they accepted the article, they would send you money, like I don't know, $100 a page, let's say. They might use the article, they might not use the article, but they bought the article. A lot of times they would use it, but they get backlogged on a lot of stuff. That's how that was. You can solicit a magazine like Military Modelcraft International or AAV Modeler or Tamaya magazine or like, Military Illustrated Modeler magazine, those types of magazines, they're not taking solicitations. Like you could submit something to one of the editors there and if you do something extraordinary or something that's really cool, they will accept it. But they don't they're not like opened up to suggestion in a lot of ways. You know what I mean?
It's not an open door. It's like you can't
Right.
just
It's not
walk in
open
and say,
door.
"Hey, this is what I got."
Right, and it's I'm not going to say it's like a fraternity or like a closed club, and I'm not going to say that because I think that if you do exceptional work or you're able to convey it or take good pictures. Now, taking good pictures is really important. Like
Hmm.
these magazines, this is publications here. Like, you got to be able to take good photography, and that's a good discussion for any podcast is on how people take good photography because a lot of people struggle with photography. And there was a time when I struggled with photography badly. And it wasn't until I figured out a good setup and got the right camera to be able to take magazine quality type photos. And that definitely helps with your builds and you conveying what you're working on or how you work on your stuff. You also have to be able to write. You got to be able to convey or discuss what you've done in a way where it's understandable to people when they're reading it. You can't just have a hogwash, mince words and throw it to a magazine and expect an editor to then write it for you. You kind of have to know what you're doing and how you did it and be able to explain it, and then that's going to help you probably get something published too. So again, it's who you know too. I think that is a big thing. I think it's once you get in that inner circle, it's kind of easier to get things done. Like my goal was always to be published. Like I always wanted to. And anybody who listens to the Insanity podcast or heard me or knows me in person knows that I'm not a show guy anymore. I haven't really participated in shows in a long time. Just one show in the last like 12 years. Awards I can care less about. I don't need anybody patting me on the back about how good or how bad I did anything. The only person I care about who likes my models is me. That's why I don't paint anything really anymore.
Amen to that.
But one of my goals in this hobby was to maybe getting into the publishing side of the hobby. That was always a goal of mine. It was something that I always admired a lot of modelers. A lot of people inspired me as a modeler over the years. Inspired me to try new things or try new techniques, do new things, buy kits that I normally wouldn't buy, seeing people working on things. And I'm humbled and honored to be able to be in that inner circle sometimes with those people about to have discussions. It's surreal when, you looked up to somebody in the hobby for years and then they're interviewing you about how you are as a modeler. That's cool, and that's something that you appreciate. Now, in our own little world, we think we're celebrities. In our own little world, we think we're everything's the modeling. This hobby's important, and it is to us. But in the grand scheme of things, we're just like a grain of sand in a beach of gazillion grains of sand. This hobby's small in the grand scheme. This hobby is very small in the grand scheme of what's important in life, right? You go to you go to a hobby shop or a model show and you ask anybody, do you know who Mig Jimenez is? And everybody's gonna know who Mig Jimenez is. You go to the grocery store and you ask the lady picking out the fucking turnips at the store at the counter, hey, do you know who Mig Jimenez is from Mamo? And they're gonna go, who? You ask them who Brad Pitt is, I bet you're gonna say, yeah, we know who that guy is.
Well, it's like,
so my point is we're all celebrities or we're all important people in our own little minds in our own little bubble. So in the grand scheme of things, it's very not important. So
well, it's like I like to say, one person's celebrity is another person's nobody, sort of thing. That kind of just like keeps that sort of grounded of like, that status is only held by yourself, sort of thing.
Exactly. Right. And again, the publishing side for me was always something that I wanted to do, and I'm thankful and grateful to Dave Grummett, who's a great guy. Really good guy. He promotes the hobby the best, I think. And I'm just really thankful to be able to help and participate with it. I know that I see they're coming out with that whole Imperial Armor line of books, focusing on Japanese armor, which is pretty damn cool too. So
I'll be looking forward to that.
Oh yeah, I'll be looking for that.
I love me some Japanese subjects.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. And hopefully if they do some other genre of models or like, hopefully I can get in on that. But yeah, definitely. I see you got the Insanity logo there. There you go.
Yeah.
Is that what we're going to talk about the podcast?
Yeah, I'm gonna make you talk about the other guys. So originally the question was, how did the Modeling Insanity podcast start? But sort of like, if you want to expand on like how the podcast is going, how you guys started.
Yeah, I could still. Yeah. This is
talk about the guys if you want.
Yeah, we could talk about. Listen, I told you how many hours we got. What are we up to?
Wherever you feel like.
Well,
we'll be going for an hour, but you go as long as you want, mate.
Nah, you know me, I don't shut up. But the Modeling Insanity podcast is a very interesting story regarding the Insanity podcast. So I was originally on a podcast called The Modeling Miscreants. And it was a podcast started by Jeff Hearn, Mike Sacklin, and they did a test episode with another individual. His name was Jim Clark. I don't know if anybody knows Jim Clark. He used to be the head. I think Jim was. Oh, excuse me. Coughing. I had a cough. I shut my mic so you didn't get a cough. Jim Clark was I think, I don't think he is anymore, but he was the head aircraft judge at IPMS Nationals. So they had done a test episode for this podcast with Jim Clark, and Jim's a great guy. But he just didn't do it in that third chair. And Mike Sacklin, who's a good friend of mine, I was good friends with at the time, not as much so anymore, but we were friends at the time. He approached me to fill that third spot because he knew how I was as my personality. So I came on as the third spot, and it worked great. Podcast was doing fantastic for a good time. We started during the height of COVID when all the other podcasts started back in 2020, 2021. And we had a good run, but egos and personalities got in the way, and, things
Shit
didn't
happens.
Right.
Yeah.
So there was something that happened, and I decided to leave. Now, Jeff had already left prior. It was time for me to go. So I wound up starting the Modeling Insanity podcast, which was subsequently I started a Facebook group as well. That's how the Insanity started back in May of last year. So the group has been around for a year. It'll be a year on June 12th when we released our first episode for the Insanity. So when I started the Insanity, I knew that I wanted to bring my buddy Steve Santucci, who came on to the Miscreants towards the middle of the run of the show. Justin Ryan, who was another guy who I was friendly with. He came on as a guest on one of the Miscreant podcast shows, an unreleased episode because he was on an episode when the fallout happened and I left, so that last episode was never released. But I brought him on as a co-host, as well as Rob Adams, who runs the Model Makers Union, who's an amazing modeler, whether he's sober or drunken or not drunk, I should say. And then and recently, since the beginning of the year, Frank Donati has come on, who is the president of IPMS Canada, who's also a real funny guy and very knowledgeable, very good modeler. And the whole background to the Insanity and the reasoning behind the Insanity podcast, the reason why I started is first of all, I love talking. I don't shut up. But I also wanted to keep a lot of comedy and a lot of mayhem and a lot of locker room talk on our podcast. So if anybody here has listened to the Insanity podcast knows how our podcast goes. We have a lot of fun. We do talk the hobby. We stick to topics, but we also joke around a lot. And we have a lot of fun with the banter. I cause a little chaos with some of the things that I say. I'm not shy with my opinions sometimes. I will come right out and tell people if they're full of shit. If I don't like a product,
Hey, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
Not at all. I went after some known modelers on my podcast, whether they like it or not. Got to deal with it. The Insanity podcast is not for everybody. I know some people love it, some people hate it. I like that. I don't want everybody to like the podcast. I want people who like it to keep listening. I want people who hate it to keep listening and keep hating it because it's fun. And it's and I do it with my friends. We have a good time, and it's like I said, it's giving back to the hobby. And as you guys know, having your own podcast, it's not easy. It's a lot of work. We record maybe once every 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Topics are easy. Talking is easy. Laughing and having fun is easy. It's the post-production that's the work. I need to find time when we record for 3.5 hours to cut that episode down to about 2 hours because no one wants to hear me talk for 3 fucking hours. No one sure as hell doesn't want to hear fucking my buddy Steve Santucci talk for 10 minutes, nonetheless 3 hours. So I'm cutting that podcast down to about 2, and I'm putting in all the funny outtakes at the end, and it takes time. So for every 10 minutes of recorded podcast that's on the show that makes it, took me about an hour to edit. So if a podcast goes 2 hours, it's about 12 hours of edit, give or take. Sometimes more. Sometimes it's a little more because somebody's umming and ahhing and stuttering every 5 minutes when they're talking that I got to cut it down and edit it. No offense, Justin, if you're listening. but sometimes I got to fucking edit people out, and it takes time. And I got a career. I got to build models. I got a pain in the ass wife, and who's very well. I got to make sure she didn't hear me. She'll run down the stairs and hit me with the stick.
So if you stop talking, we know why.
Yeah, no. But I mean,
well, we'll see her coming.
We'll see it coming. But we have a really good time with the podcast. I love it, and I love the guys that I'm on the show. But I say this all the time, and I've said it on my podcast. The Modeling Insanity podcast is an extension of our group. Right? Our group, the Modeling Insanity group, is a group of guys who hang out every night building models and having fun. Callum has come in many times. He sees how it is. It's a lot of fun. We have a good time building models. It's like a fraternity. It's a social group. And like before we got on I was in the room and we had about 15 guys in there on a Saturday night having fun. Now, granted, there's nights where someone's having a problem and we're there to help them and talk about it. So it's not all laughter and joking around and busting balls. Excuse me. Sometimes somebody has a crisis going on. Somebody's got something going on in their personal lives that they want to talk about, and they know that they can come on and we can discuss it as friends. And that's what that group is about. And the podcast is an extension of that, where we're like the weekly or the bi-weekly commentary for that group. So that's something that I always try to promote with the Modeling Insanity. And I welcome people to come on. Some people come on for the first time, and within a week, they're on every night. They get addicted to it because it's fun. There's people that come on and was like, holy shit, this ain't for me. I ain't going back there. Of course, it's not for everyone. But for the most part, it's a good time. And I do encourage, people to come in and check it out because we do have a lot of fun.
Yeah, because like the Micro Machines podcast is, similar in that regards. I mean, even like you've had a look into our Discord and you see the numerous text channels we have.
I'm looking at this. It's like, holy shit, man! You got 1,000 rooms.
We get that reaction a lot because as part of our usual episodes, we talk about the real life vehicles as well as the models of it.
Okay. Yes, I know that. Yep.
Yeah. So, but that's also just an extension of the server. We have the model dedicated stuff, but then everyone in the server, we're all just fanatical about the real life subjects as well, and so that's why we merge them both, because while you're modeling about it, we can also talk about it at the same time or it's just this. I think you could call it a downside. It's also an upside. People are posting so many photos they find of different vehicles and all that. You sit there and go, holy shit, that's a good reference. That's a good reference. That's a cool diorama. I want to build that. Eventually, you sit there and go like, I want to build so much stuff. I don't have the time or money to do it. But that's just like part of...
It's like overstimulating.
Yeah, but that's just part of so we do that in the podcast episode because on the server, we're just constantly talking about the real life subject as well as modeling. So we can just put them all together because you're modeling a real life subject. So
that's where the inspiration comes through. That was our last episode. That episode 16 of our podcast was about like what inspires us to build things and what research goes in for that inspiration. What are you inspired by and how it inspires you? And those who know me, I'm not a huge research guy. Like I go to other people to figure stuff out for me sometimes because there's a lot that I'm ignorant about when it comes to stuff, and I'm not afraid to say that. I could build it. I might not be able to tell you what it is or what it's used for, but I know how to make it. And there's a lot of people out there who love references. That's what they live for. And it's insulting to some people when you don't know what it is. So I like that though. I think that's cool. But you do have a lot of fucking things on your board, man. I mean, how do you keep up with all that shit?
Work gets boring sometimes, so it's easy enough. It's more that we kind of just found that you have like a couple. If it was a small group, having a couple chat messages was all right, but then when you get more and more people on, you start diverging in subjects. That's why I don't bother with say messenger groups. It's just one chat, so you might be chatting about something, and then someone interrupts with something else, and you lose it.
Right.
So we're just like, okay, we'll just bracket it into this, this, and this, and like I can have a conversation with one person about 3 different topics at the same time, just on the different chat subjects.
I see that.
Which
Listen, I'm
seems.
looking. What, hold on. What? Demaz methylar son. What?
That's that's Dennis. Dennis from the podcast. He does a lot of engineering and maths stuff. He's a big like maths guy. So that's his like personal chat that we take the piss out of him with.
All right, so you guys are right over here, man. I don't want to get into some crazy shit with you guys. I don't want to get in trouble.
got some Walter White shit going on.
Yeah.
You got a tub full of shit in your bathroom?
No, basement.
Basement.
One of us.
But so like, and of course with the the references, I barely need to do any research because of the server now, because we have so many people on who are just fanatical about references. Like,
Yes.
if you're ever doing Japanese armor subjects, like say Sione, or who we've nicknamed Tank Mum on the Discord, she knows everything and anything about Japanese tanks from World War II, and she will find the most obscure photos you can imagine. And like the number of times that she corrects everyone on like, no, this is wrong, it's actually this. And then turns out she's part of the the tank encyclopedia.
Oh, there's a chick, there's a woman?
Yeah. Yeah, she is knowledgeable.
I don't want to say anything misogynistic here, because if it's my podcast, I would say something really inappropriate, but I won't do that here. That's fantastic. I think that's great.
Yeah, so she's part of that. We've actually got quite a lot of girls in the Discord.
Really?
One of them, she worked with Dennis when they were worked in a hobby store. She painted, what was it, an LED 3 bright pink, and had it displayed in the store. And the amount of shit she got online for that. But
listen,
it was hilarious.
That's old joke on the side. I think that's awesome. You know, I really do. I think that's great. I mean, how much interaction you got on the page? You got a lot of people on the Discord server?
I think we've got about
over 100
pings from you, though. I don't think. I mean, I'm joined. I don't know. I keep a lot of things muted. That's kind of easy for me.
Yeah.
I think we kept.
Dinging.
Yeah, we kept it to the point where it didn't do a notification, because there was just so many channels going that would drive someone nuts.
Yeah, definitely.
But
so that's why I'm not getting dings.
Yeah, so we're just kind of so it just didn't interrupt people's day, because we've got people from all around the world, so there's a 24/7 thing going on, so that's why we have it like that.
Yeah, but at least, like Callum said, it's so nice. Like Shermans. It's like we got a guy that knows everything about Shermans, every fucking little type that they ever made, and if you have a question, you can go to him.
Yeah, no, it's good to have. Yeah, we got that in our group too, and when I have questions for things, I know the guys I go to to get those questions answered. Though, definitely. What is this next here? What does it say?
All right, so the last slide, just for the last little bit. So a quick six questions. Although I have a feeling it won't be quick, but right. Question 1: what is your favorite brand?
Brand of model kits?
Yeah.
Or just brands can be anything?
Let's go model kit and then accessory.
Right now, I think my favorite brand and favorite models come from Ryfield Models right now.
Hell yeah.
I just think that Ryfield Models has come a long way. They are, in my opinion, in their current state, they are a cross between like a Tamiya Dragon and like probably like the best out of all the model companies is what Ryfield is, in my opinion now, because when they first hit the scene a few years back, their molds were suspect, but they had a lot of potential, and they took feedback on how to become better, and they have become better. Like their Stugs, their Panzer IIIs, their KVs, amazing. Best on the market, in my opinion, right now. Like you can't even touch it. And I just think that Ryfield Models is really, really making a big splash with how, and their models, they listen, they make interior kits, they make non-interior kits. They're taking advantage of their molds. They're doing the right thing, like a mini art. Mini Arts come a long way too. They're a close second for me, but it is Ryefield models right now for me, especially with the update sets that they create for all their kits. They don't include it to jack up the price. They give you the option to buy it separately if you don't want it. That's just great marketing, in my opinion.
Agreed.
What would you be your favorite, say, non-kit brand? So like accessory, aftermarket.
I'm an
something
Aber
like
guy, 100%. I'll always love Aber. I've been an Aber guy for many, many years. I think I bought that guy's house for him with all the shit that I had. Yeah, and I'm not saying that jokingly, man. I have so much photo etch. I have bins and bins and bins of Aber photo etch. I can't describe it. It's like a lot. People are like, oh, I got like 6,000 kits. I have so much photo etch that I don't even know what I have anymore.
No wonder I can't fucking buy it.
It takes me if I have to. I know I have something. If I don't every once in a while sort my stuff out, it might take me 2 hours to find it.
Sounds like you need a filing system.
I use ScaleMates, which was a good idea, but ScaleMates isn't showing me where I put it, though. They tell me I got it. That's where I put it.
Bro needs to get a secretary to just organize his shit.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Don't think the wife would like that one though.
Oh no.
Does she have to be petite and blonde?
Yeah.
Okay. Next one. What is I say kit, but what is a vehicle that you want to see either made or retooled into something better? Because we've all got the wish list of what we want to see as a model kit, or there is one, but you don't want to touch it. What would be that one for you? We've all got something.
One kit that I would like to see retooled. Wow, that's a loaded question.
BMP2 full interior.
What's that?
BMP2 full interior.
Well, BMP, I like the BMPs. Yeah. Wow, that's an interesting question. Wow.
We literally did an entire 2 episodes on this subject alone.
about the. I mean, for me, I'm a big Russian German World War II guy. And I love that. I mean, I love those subjects. Wow, it's something I would have to think about. Nothing's really jumping out at me.
We've made him speechless.
No, you know what it is though is I never build out of the box. So every kit that I build, I'm rebuilding it. I'm retooling it.
That is true.
I want when I have kits. All right, and this is gonna This will piggyback to the next question you're gonna ask about what decides my next build.
Yep.
So this will tell you why I have a hard time saying what I would like to see retooled, because a model in its bare bones is the best for me because I'm going to make it into the model that it should be, in my opinion. One of the builds that I'm doing one build now, and I sent Callum some of the in-progress pics, is the Bronco Panzer IIIA. And I'm rebuilding a lot of that model. I'm using a lot of the kit, but I'm changing things on it to make it mine. So when we get to it, we'll see it, but I'm changing I'm rescribing all the welds on it. Took me like a week and a half just to do the scribing to make sure it was done right. And redid all the weld beads, which is in my pictures that I gave to Callum. But the build I'm doing next is a T55 Enigma.
Yes.
That is at Bovington. The Bovington T55 Calvin and Hobbes Enigma. And it's on the back of it's got the Calvin and Hobbes graffiti on it that they did in Iraq, and now they took it out of Iraq and they brought it to Bovington. And my original idea was to use the Tamaya kit as the base. Now the Tamaya kit's great, but it's good, but if you want to do the one that's at Bovington, you need to have all the aftermarket sets. So I have the Aber fenders, the Aber photo etch detail set. I got the Aber toolboxes. I have it's 3 sets. I have the Aber barrel. I got an aftermarket mantlet because it's going to be ripped up like it is at Bovington. Now, I got to build, if I want to make that model the way it is at Bovington, if I'm using the Tamaya kit, I got to cut the fenders off. I got to redo all the whatever that armor is called. Do you know what the armor is called on those? See, this is where the references and the research comes into play. I know it has all that reactive armor all over
The
the model,
ERA.
whatever it is. That has
Mhm.
to be redone. There's weld beads on there and the in-betweens that aren't really on the Tamiya kit. Now, I have the mini arc kit, but will the mini arc kit accept all the Tamiya upgrades the right way? Because the dimensions might be slightly off between the two kits.
Yeah.
So I might still use a Tamiya kit. So I'm going to retool that kit from the bottom up. So everything is getting redone. I have aftermarket tracks for it. I have aftermarket road wheels to put on it. I got Aber fenders, Aber detail set, Aber photo-etch boxes that are going to be made workable because on the Calvin and Hobbes Bovington Enigma, the toolboxes are all banged up and bent. So you can't do that with kit parts. You got to use photo-etch.
Yeah.
And those aren't easy to make. So again, this kind of leads into what my next build is going to be. What decides it, I saw a great reference and I want to build it. So that's what I'm doing it. And this is taking me out of my what we call our wheelhouse. I'm not a big, if you want to consider a T-55 as a modern armor, I would call it more Cold War armor or whatever, but
Yeah.
it's taking me out of my wheelhouse doing a T-55 Iraqi Enigma. So that's really cool, and I'm going to retool it. So I hope that answers both questions.
It does. I mean, what would be interesting is to find you, like, I could probably grab, like, a really bad old kit from my stash to see how well you could do with rebuilding it. Like, I've got a T, actually, I've got one that would be perfect for you, a T-50 Russian light tank.
Oh, the light tank from Hobby Boys?
No.
Oh.
No, it's,
What was it? Like Eastern Express?
No. Maquette?
Oh, old Marquette kit. Woof.
Yeah.
Landfills. I call that landfill models.
Yeah, it's like half of it is flash. Like, you got the sprue, like, rectangle, and it's like half of it is just solid flash.
Yeah, no,
Callum's expertise there.
Yeah, I got it for $5. So what do you expect?
I figured it was going to be less than 10.
Okay. Next question. So, because you've been in the hobby for quite a while,
right.
What is the biggest change you've seen in the hobby? And this is more of a question from like a younger generation of modelers to an older generation of like.
Right. I mean, listen. I mean, wow. The hobby today is vastly different than what the hobby was back in the day. I mean, you back in the day. When I say back in the day, I mean that could be the 50s for Christ's sake. So let's say this: back like in the 80s or even the 90s, which wasn't that long ago. Maybe for you guys it was, but for me it wasn't. You wanted to build a certain kit. Most of the time, that kit wasn't available in plastic form. So you either had to build it yourself using what was available to you at the time and make the variant that you wanted, or got it in resin form. Right? Mm-hmm. So today, you have all these kit manufacturers, and some have gone, and some manufacturers that came out in the 2000s are now gone. But for the most part, what you have today with obviously Tamiya and Dragon and Ryefields and Takom and Meng and Mini Art and a bunch of other Hobby Boss, which is Trumpeter, and all these companies. Like, so Mini Art's got everything from the Panzer 3B to the Panzer 3D. Panzer 3s, right? Mm-hmm. Dragon makes everything from the E to the N, right? Mm-hmm. Then there's other companies that intermingle Panzer 3s. I'm using Panzer 3 as an example. But years ago, there was only a Panzer 3L and a Panzer 3N available for you to do. And if you wanted to build a Panzer 3B, you either had to make it yourself or buy like a Pendinghaus or a Cromwell resin kit that had a plug of resin the size of your fucking head. And if you wanted to fucking build that, you had to cut that resin off and hope you didn't destroy the model. And it still weighed a ton. And you probably got resin dust in your lungs. And that turret is warped. And now you got to put it in hot water to try to unwarp it. That's how you had to build those kits back then. Today, you just buy the mini arc kit. Or, you want to build the T50, or you want to build like a T60 or T70 mini. It's got every variant. You want to build a T55. They have every variant available now. T54s, T55s. You get it's readily available. You wanted to build a T62. All you had was the terrible, inaccurate Tamiya kit. Now there's like 5 of them available for you. Like you didn't have those kits available like you do today. Like every kit, I think every kit that could ever be kitted in plastic form has been done now. Really, I really believe that. Like, especially from World War II, you would get that, that rare instance where there's maybe some variant that was never made. But for the most part, it is. And if it's not, there's an aftermarket set out there or a conversion set available for you to make it. You didn't have that back then. And we already touched base on this. All the weathering stuff, like from AK and MiG and Vallejo and all this stuff, VMS, you didn't have this stuff back then. When you painted your models, you had like 3 paints available to you. You had Tamiya paint, you had testers and mission I almost said mission models. Don't edit that out, please. Model Masters paints, you had Humbro paints, you had Polyscale. You had those types of paints available. You didn't have all these other paints available to you like you have today. Lacquers and things like that wasn't available then like that. And now you want to, everything's at your disposal. You want to buy stuff. Like if you wanted a deal, you went to a show and got deals at shows. Or you had your local hobby shop. Or you ordered from Squadron mail order. Like today, you could be laying in your bed and put in a $100 order or $150 order on some online store, and 2 days it's at your doorstep. Like you didn't have that back then.
Yep.
Like years ago, you wanted to build a model, you either had it at your local hobby shop, or you had to try to order it from like some mail order like Squadron, or you went to a show, and back then you got deals at shows. Today you don't get deals, so there's a lot that's changed. Like the ability to just buy things at your fingertips. Like I'll go on right now. Like at every month, I can go on Sprue Brothers. I can go on B&A. I can go on Jada Hobbies in Poland. I can go on Super Hobby in Poland. I can go to Hobby Easy in Hong Kong. Within 2 minutes, I can order $500 worth of stuff, and it'll be at my doorstep in a week. So that's pretty much how it's done. What do we got? What's the best? What's this?
Next one. What has been the best new release in your opinion? What's the one release that's come out that you've been the most excited for?
Recent.
Well, what's one that's like even over the years, not let's say not recent, but one that like came out and you was like super excited for?
The 1/16 scale Stug 3G from Doswork, and I will say that as a Stug fan because it was always, and it was funny because when we were doing the Miscreant podcast, we had talked about what our Holy Grail kit would be if it was ever made.
Yep.
And at that time, I said I would love to see a Stug 3 or a Panzer 3 being made in 1/16 scale form. And not even like a day after that episode aired, Doswork announced the Stug 3G and Panzer 3J.
Well, fuck. There you go.
I'm not kidding. It was literally like the next day or two that they announced those kits. So, and it's crazy because I have those kits and I build a little bit of the Stug here and there, but I can't get the motivation to keep doing it. I got awesome 3D printed winter kit and tracks done. I have other things made for it. I got the Attack Zimmert for it. I got so much stuff that I bought for that kit. I got a lot of Aber photo-etch in 1/16 scale. And I just can't get the freaking energy to just build a 1/16 scale, even though I wanted it. But that was the one kit that I always wanted to see. That and the Panzer 3J in 1/16. And then they came out with the Hella kits. Hella came out with 1/16 scale Stug, as well as they came out with their own Panzer 3. It's like a hybrid of J or an L. You can make it into either one you want. But definitely those kits, definitely. All right, we're at intermission.
All right. So that was our little segment with the great Rob Riv from the Model Insanity podcast. I'd just like to say to Rob, we really, really enjoyed that. Like, you say we didn't talk much, but we just wanted to hear from you about everything from you because we talk all the time on a podcast. When we have a guest on, we want the guest to talk. We want to hear what they have to say. And And honestly, I was just enjoying it a lot of the time
Oh,
as
yeah.
well.
Yeah, same,
You know, I
same.
was kind of getting into it. You know.
I don't stop sometimes, Callum. Sometimes you got to tell me to move on, you know. But no, it's all good.
Makes for good content. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm all about good content, man. We
Yeah.
have to keep, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, but
Since we got you here, I do have a question for you.
Sure, what's up?
What soldering iron would you recommend? Tip size, solder? What do you recommend?
I use what I use is I use a Weller, a 35-watt Weller,
Okay. I'll
and
write that down.
yeah, it's you can get them on Amazon. They go for about $70 now. And what you want to use is you want to use a soldering iron that doesn't screw into the soldering iron. You want to use the one that has the like the collar nut that you drop it in and then you tighten it.
Okay.
There's all different types of tips. I always tell people to use the tip with the smallest soldering tip. So I call them like a needle tip. You don't want the screwdriver tips or like those type of tips. You want to use the ones that are pointed. You can get them on Amazon. If you were to get the 35-watt Weller, that's a WP35 Weller soldering iron. If you were to get that, and you just if you just search it on Amazon tips, you'll see them all pop up, and you'll see the ones to get. The
Cool.
ones that are pointed. There's some that are rounded, some that are get even thinner and thinner, and there's ones that are really thin. So you want to get it. You can get a pack that has like 5 different tips. Those are the ones that I recommend.
Cool.
I use the soldering that I use is a 6236-2 solder, so it's silver bearing solder, right? And if you go on Amazon, just put in 0.015 diameter solder, and you'll see them all pop up. Yeah, you can get them on Amazon. It's right. It's 6236-2, so it's 62/30/36/2 silver bearing solder. That's what you want to use.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
And then the flux I use Alpha Metals flux. If you just put in Alpha Metals, it's like a liquid flux. That's what I use. Some people like paste. It's something that I've been using for years, and it works for me. It doesn't.
That's
work
the
for
same flux
everybody.
I've been using. So.
Yeah, the Alpha Metals flux is fantastic. So there you go.
Awesome.
Yeah.
all right.
Rob, hey, I got a quick question for you, Rob.
Go for it.
I know you build armor, but
Yep.
do you dabble in dioramas?
Not anymore. I once did years ago. I haven't really built many dioramas within recent time, but I used to do them back about 20 years ago. I used to do dios. Kind of dios. Vignette size dios, I would say. Smaller size dios.
Very
Why?
well.
What do you want to
Very
know?
well. Oh, I love building dioramas myself, and I was curious what you enjoy building if you did them.
I used to do dios. I really like doing like farmhouse dios, like tanks going through like villages and stuff years ago.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I always enjoyed I would always do like facade type dios. I wouldn't build like a whole house or whatever, but it would be more like a facade where you would get like the front of the structure with like part of the side of the structure caddy
Yep.
cornered, and like a tank or like I got a couple of figures on there. That's what I used to do years ago. It's been a long time. Every little diorama that I ever did, I no longer have. They were either sold or gone for some. I used to keep them in a hobby shop years ago, and that hobby shop is no longer around. But some were sold years ago. People bought them, and I don't have them anymore. And they were, I mean, they're not at the quality of the modeling that I do today. So,
Right.
even though I do have a couple of my old models that I keep because those would mean a lot to me, you know. Even though they're not to the quality that I do now, those are still some of the models that I remember building at certain points in my life that I was having hard times, and I just remember building them, and they mean a lot to me, so I would never get rid of them.
Right on.
Nice.
All right. Well, do we have any more questions for him, Clint Garrison?
That was
set.
my main one.
All right.
Yep, I'm set for intermission.
All right.
Yeah,
So
kicking
we
me out. Am I staying for the next segment or what?
of course you are.
Absolutely, you are.
Yeah, we're not
Do
leaving.
you want to?
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking at a picture of Vinnie Vincent, man. Do you guys know who Vinnie Vincent is? Yes, back in the day. You guys are. You're too young.
No.
Forget it. Just edit
Vinnie
that out of the podcast. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, Vinny's going through a hard time.
All right, so we are going to have a brief intermission. Then we're going to get straight into the hobby news and works in progress and all the usual housekeeping. And of course, Rob is going to be hanging around for that because he's not getting off that easy. But we'll be back very shortly, so we'll see you in a bit. And we are back from intermission, and we, as usual sort of weekly shit. Hobby news is up first. Let's see what has been going on. And first up, we have, come on, internet, from Armour Hobby. They're releasing a P-51B Mustang, but of course they've already done that a couple of years ago. This is a deluxe set. So this is one of their dual sets where they have 2 kits in it. And of course comes with 3D printed parts included. But yeah, they're releasing their P-51B Mustang as a deluxe set and a dual set. So something that I would really want. Because I saw the Musaru Cup build competition where they built these. Was it? Yeah, it was the Armour Hobby ones they built, wasn't it? You remember, Rob?
This year?
No, it was last year's one. I think it was.
I think it
Was
was,
it the
and that's the
Armour?
one Banani won.
Yeah.
Right.
Those kits look super good. I really want to get one. So having a deluxe set. Hopefully they've. I think they needed to correct the tires. I think they had decals for an Australian one, but the which is what the on the bench guys did. They wanted to do an Australian one, but the tires were the wrong type. So maybe they've corrected that. But either way, Armour Hobby super good, and I really want this. Up next, internet. From Border Models, a little bit of controversy. They've released their Sherman M4A1, the 76 wet version, and also the A1 mid version. However, there's been a little bit of controversy with the 76 one because it's been released with the wrong turret. Not the wrong turret, the wrong hatches for the driver and the bow gunner, which one of our crew in the Discord pointed out, and the amount of there wasn't a lot of nice things said to him about that. But considering that this is supposed to be a brand new tool, brand new everything, getting something wrong, at least they didn't do an air fix with the Vulcan. If you guys remember that, their Vulcan, they accidentally put the ECM pod on the outside of the landing gear doors because they didn't check a reference properly. But they have confirmed that they are correcting this before it gets released out.
Yeah,
so
that's kind of what
that is good.
That's what happened with their Stug 3, late Stug 3G.
Yeah, what was wrong with that one?
And then there was some issues with it, and then they had to they had to take it back, and they didn't release it, and then it took like another 6 months to come out. Felt like 6 years because I pre-ordered it and it was like forever to get it, but it's nothing great, but it took forever because there was a lot of inaccuracies on it. There's no excuse today to have inaccuracies on your kit.
No.
Oh, no, absolutely not. I mean, the amount of references, resources, and people, and even the real-life tanks you can get to, it's just,
There's no
you wonder how it gets through. No. I will say, I just noticed on the 76 version, the box art, I just realized there's a hole right in the middle of the front plate that they've done a knocked out Sherman with a little bit of flame coming out. That is
oh, yeah, they did, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw somebody compare it to the Fury scene where that one Sherman got knocked out during the tree line assault.
Actually, yeah, that's about where it got hit as well in that movie.
Literally, the box art and the picture are like 80% identical. It's kind of funny.
That's actually kind of cool. I like that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
But yeah, weird thing, in real life, the real life M4A1, I do not like the look of. I hate the cast hull and all that. However, you scale it down to 35th, and I'm a fan of it. I don't know why, but an A1 variant of the Sherman in 35th, I prefer the look of the real life thing. It's weird.
Be like that.
But anyway, brand new Shermans, always welcome. This one I saw, RS models. I only bring this one up purely because it's been a while since a Lightning in 72nd scale has come out, and these two are different. These are not P38 Lightnings as we know them. They are the F5 Lightnings. And what the F5 is the photo reconnaissance variant of the P-38 Lightning. So they gave them a brand new designation. So they are bringing out the F5B and the F5C, all in conjunction with the 80th anniversary for the D-Day landing. So I think this is something pretty cool and something you don't see often. Up next from Rob's favorite brand,
Yes.
Ryfield Model. We've got 3 new releases. First one being an M1279 JLVT utility. After that is a Leopard 2A6 Special Limited Edition. This is a captured version with T80 wheels in Moscow. This is a 2-in-1 kit. And lastly, they are bringing out a T80 UK, all in 35th scale. I think that Leopard might be quite... I reckon that will be popular, maybe, just for the sort of rarity. Yeah.
I personally want the T80 set. That, oh man.
Yeah, modern vehicles don't do much for me.
I don't know much about the T80 series. That's why I'm not into it. Yeah. And also the JLVT. I mean, it's way too modern for me.
Oh yeah.
I'm an interwar guy. It's like there's no rivets, there's no bolts, there's no nothing. Nah, don't like it.
They're nice on the inside.
I do think the Leopard 2A6 Special Limited Edition, that will be somewhat popular, even if it's just take the piss out of the Russians.
I know, I never worked on them.
And lastly, from SS Model, that is the 3D resin kit company in China, they're releasing a Flak Panzer Alps A. That is the Flak Panzer variant based on the Panzer 1A. Yeah, it is the Panzer 2B. Panzer 1B. Fuck me.
You got this, Cal. You got this.
How small that must be in 1/72nd scale?
Microscopic.
It's like
big.
That.
Yeah.
However, one good thing I will say about SS Model is if they bring something out in one scale, they bring it out in every other scale. So if they release it in 72nd, it's also been released in 48th, 35th, and 16th scale occasionally.
That's nice.
But this is a 3D resin company, so it's a 3D printed kit. But I have seen some people build them, and they do look to be at a very good quality. So I wouldn't mind grabbing one because they have some very cool subjects.
They do a lot of off-the-wall stuff.
They're the only company that does a British medium Mark III tank. And that is something I desperately want. But apart from that, that's really it for the hobby news. It's a bit of a quiet week this week in that terms, and it sucks a bit. I like to have brand new releases, but we'll move on to what we've all been working on. And first up for that, I'm going to shut up for a bit because Garrison.
All right, I've got 2 slides. It's kind of the same thing, but I've been working on a Horizon Island Defense Force Tamiya Type 90 set on at an ammo supply point in Tanoa on a highway. Just since I've been out of work this past 2 weeks, before I go back, I wanted to bang out some kits, a couple dioramas, and first modern MBT. Pretty fun to do. Had a lot of fun with it. And yeah, it's just kind of just waiting on the plaque to come in from Amazon, and then it'll be done. But it's pretty much done at this point.
Looks great.
Thank you. Then more close-up pictures on the 4 over there. You can thank Clint for the ASAB waiver name idea. I could not decide on a name, and he suggested that, and it was perfect. And then top left, I've got the Ukraine diorama, the 2 foot by 3.5 foot that I'll be doing. Finally got foam down in it, so I'm gonna buy a foam cutter, a handheld foam cutter to, carve out those trenches and blast craters and whatnot. And then below that is the workbench. Before we started, I got the kind of hard to see, but the AFV Club M5A1 Stuart light tank early production out that started building on that. So.
Very nice.
And how's the Grilla going, or have you given up on that again?
I threw that bitch in the trash. The first model,
Finally did it.
yeah, dude, the first model I've ever just given up on. That was the absolute worst. Sorry excuse of a model kit that I've ever seen. It was horrible.
And what company was it again?
Arc Models.
Arc Model.
Oh, see, now you've got me worried. I've got an Arc model. I've got their Valentine Mark III. Should I be worried?
If it's anything like the fucking what do you call it? That stupid grill. Yeah, I would just chunk it. But you won't know until you start building it. So.
Well, and also because it was a cheap Mark III, which New Zealand used Mark IIIs in the Pacific. So, you know, I want to make I haven't made a New Zealand subject yet. No, a lie. I have done. I've made one New Zealand Wellington, but I need to make more New Zealand stuff. You know, I need to get a bit more patriotic on my builds.
Yes.
The only downside, the only thing is we used a lot of British stuff. You know how expensive British subjects are? Like British tanks, especially, Tamiya ones, all of that. Horrendous prices.
Have you ever built a New Zealand Corsair?
Nope. I've only built a United States Navy Corsair.
Who's
it's like the New Zealand Air Force. That's. Oh, go ahead.
Who's invading New Zealand?
Oh no one's invading us. It's just we help out others.
I'm joking. I do it to Misi all the time because Andrew's in the New Zealand military. So I'm always like, "What the hell are you doing?"
Oh, don't worry. I hang out with Misi quite a bit now.
I know you guys got a
little
little like. I don't like this. I introduced you guys, and now you guys are in cahoots together.
Oh yeah, we got the New Zealand Discord server.
I don't like that. I know. I'm not happy about it, but it's okay. I don't.
Sorry?
I'll let you know off the podcast about how I feel about that.
We'll talk offline. Good to go.
You know, I don't like this. That's my MO. I introduce people, and then they become, you know, they become friends, and then they start shunning you. You know, I don't like it. You better watch out for that Misi guy. He's up to no good.
He's got some good stories. I'll give him that.
Nah, he's a good guy. He's got a girlfriend now, so he's all happy. But watch, I told him, don't get married. Stay single again. Don't get intermingled with women. They just ruin your life and make you miserable. He doesn't want to listen.
Amen, brother.
Look, he's all happy. He's like, oh, it's fantastic. Yeah, it's fantastic now. Let me see in 6 months how life is. And you tell me how good it is. You're in the honeymoon stage. You're not shitting with the door open yet. Once you can start shitting with the door open, then we'll talk. I'm sorry.
I think that's where it went downhill on my last one.
I'm only kidding. We're talking. This is work in progress, and we're talking about this guy. I'm sorry for going off on a tangent.
We go off on tangents all the time. Don't worry about it.
That's 90% of the show.
Yeah,
facts.
I'm sorry.
All right, I'm up next, and this is my interior for my Martin Mariner, the PBM5A. That's the one that I bought off the auction. Models to Heroes 48 and 48. I don't know why I was blanking on that name. But this is the one that I got from that, and the interior is, I want to say, 80% done. I mean, I got most of the bits glued in, but I've still got all 22 windows to put in.
Jesus.
As well as, it's got a lot of glass in there. The only thing I'm disappointed about this kit so far is it does have a waist gunner on either side, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it's got a big hatch with where you can have a cradle for the 50 cal, and it's even got a shield on it that folds up so they're not in the slipstream. And that is molded on the side, but they don't give you the option to have it open or anything like that, so it's permanently closed, which kind of sucks because the mounting looks really cool on the side, but yeah, they don't give it to you. So yeah, unfortunately, I wanted to do that, I can't. So I've got most of the stuff inside. Now I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to position the micro LED in there, because there is enough light in there, and there is enough you can see into it. So if I can put a light in that's just bright enough to show what's in it, but at the moment the one I've got is too bright and it kind of floods everything. Because it's a yellow LED as well. which is accurate to the bulbs they used back then, because they had the orange light bulbs, so it'll be accurate, but it's just too bright and it's just kind of flooding and creating too many shadows. So I'm still trying to figure out. But that's the last bit I've got to do. Basically, is once I get the electronics and the wiring figured out, because there's plenty of space behind it, so that's all good, and I know where I'm going to put the button for it. But it's just trying to figure out where the LED is going to go and how I'm going to dim it a bit. I thought I'd put some matte varnish on it, just to try and make it a bit more diffused as well, so it's not so direct. But it's that didn't work.
Add a bigger resistor to it.
Right.
That'll choke some of the voltage going down to it, so it'll be dimmer.
Okay. I failed electronics at high school, so yeah, I've forgotten a lot of things. There are 2 bits in here that I actually had to scratch build myself, and that is the little wooden table and the green sort of hatch next to it. Those don't come in the kit, but those are 2 actually large features within an interior of a Mariner. So this is the first time I actually scratch built something to add into it. So it took me a lot longer than it should have. You're looking at cutting out 4 pieces of bloody styrene, but that's just me. So I did my oil paint weathering technique on the desk there, and what I might do is when I'm at work tomorrow, I might try and find some pictures of maps and charts and stuff, and then just print them off real small and just put a couple of charts on there as well, just because you might be able to see them.
Oh, they're definitely busy it up. Yeah.
Yeah, so just make it a bit more interesting. I also wanted to put in you got about 6 seats there, so I thought, maybe I'll put 6 figurines in there. I don't have that many. I've got 1. So, yeah, this one's going to be a non-working one, but otherwise, she is almost ready to be closed up, and then I can get started on the main thing. But, it's been quite a fun build so far. So, it's not too bad.
Well, good.
That's great. Glad you finally got started on
it. Same here. I got stuck on it because I had I'm making this into a YouTube video, and I just couldn't figure out how I was going to start it for the filming and stuff like that. It's one thing that stops me on a lot of builds is how am I going to film this one? So it's like you can see enough, but I'm not hating it. So yeah, I spent a lot of time planning this one out, but I'm enjoying it.
Well, as long as you enjoy it, that's what matters.
That's all that matters, exactly.
All right. This is the Tamiya 148 scale Kawasaki KI-61 of the 244 Sentai that was found abandoned in Chofu, Japan. All the paints used was Alcalad 2 aluminum, then Tamiya for the camo pattern, and then also used some Mr. Hobby for the interior. It was really fun build. I did it all with that new gallery airbrush that I got, the 98D, I believe it's called.
You like it?
Oh yeah, it's like I've told you before, it sprays just as well as my Iwata. Granted, my Iwata now is like 15 years old and it's went through many needles and nozzles, but no, it's right out of the box. Thing sprays great, and again, I had a lot of fun building this. One thing that I didn't realize was I built the little plaque for it. I sketched it out in Fusion 360 and then 3D printed it on the Bamboo Lab.
That's great.
Thank you.
No, I like
that.
It a lot. You did it on that's 3D printed?
Yeah, the plaque.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you painted it?
No, I got a multicolor printer.
Oh wow, looks great.
Thank you. But one thing I didn't know, and Sione pointed out to me, was this is the Japanese naval flag, not the army flag.
It'd be like that.
The only difference, I guess, is the army flag is centered, the naval flag is offset.
Okay, looks good.
I'll tell you one thing: you do something Japanese and you screw it up, Sione will let you know.
Yeah.
she is quick.
In the
She's
nicest way
tactful.
possible.
Yeah, she's tactful about
Well,
it, but she'll let you know.
Well, that's the other thing. Yeah, she won't sit there. She'll tell you what's wrong with it and
Does
how
she
to
listen
correct
to
it.
the
She won't
show?
sit there.
Does she listen to the show?
I think so.
Good question.
Tell her to go cook dinner, and then after she cooks dinner and cleans the dishes, then we'll talk about the Japanese stuff.
Oh,
Well, I mean,
Clean the
she's
bathrooms, and
got a
then when you're
couple of
done
kids.
cleaning, we'll talk about models. I'm only kidding. What's her name again?
Sione.
Sione. I'm only kidding, Sione.
I mean, she is a mum, so she.
Oh,
yeah.
really? Oh, okay, even better.
Yeah.
She definitely needs to clean and cook and do the laundry. Nah. You just lost a
this
couple
is looking. There's nothing new there. No, this is looking really good, man. Like, this is so cool.
Well, thank you. I had a lot of fun building it. So scared to
great.
death to do the camo pattern, but
Don't be scared.
yeah, I think it came out good.
Yeah, did a good job, Clint. Good job as always, buddy.
Thank you.
That sort of camo can be like intimidating if you're not sure how to do it.
And trying to freehand it, but again, it's like the spray pattern I got so tight on the gallery airbrush. And then any overspray that I did have, I just went in with some 3000 grit sandpaper and wet sanded it. And it was enough to take the overspray off, but not damage the alkylate aluminum.
I might have to look into that. That's a good idea.
It's all for me.
There you go.
All right. Next, we got Rob. This is the Panzer 3A.
This is the 3A, yeah. It's hard to see in the pictures. I mean, I don't know if you could see it, that this was where I...
Hang on. How's that? Come on.
I'm about it, yeah. This is... Okay, well, you can see in the middle the photo etch added to some of the parts of from the Bronco kit. The mantlet. The MGs are getting replaced with Aber MGs because the MGs in the kit suck.
They usually do.
Yeah, with the Bronco kit they usually suck. But the weld beads were totally redone, so I had to rescribe out all the old. Well, all the weld beads on this kit are all raised welds. They're inaccurate, so they were sanded off, scraped off, sanded, and then I had to rescribe in all new weld beads for the entire model. The rear plate, the rear deck, if you see the middle top, the plate, I kind of mated the two, the rear deck and the regular fighting compartment are I kind of glued together and kind of blended them in together so the weld beads would match up. You can't really see in these pictures, but it came out pretty good. I'm happy with it. This is a good kit, though. It's the only kit on the market, really, if you want a Panzer 3A Bronco. And unfortunately, you can't get this kit. Well, you can get this kit, but the Bronco's is gone. So this kit's not being made anymore. So if you want to build an A version of the Panzer 3, I don't know of anybody who makes it. It's just Bronco, so you got to try to find this kit. So if you notice, the early spring suspension was only used on the A.
Yeah.
So they used a spring type of suspension on the A, and on the B to the D they used the other not torsion. The torsion bars is the Eon. I guess it would be some other stuff.
Leaf spring.
Leaf spring. There you. This is why you get paid the host money, Callum, because you got the answers. Leaf springs. Right. Now the next was that.
I was going to say, I will say, I wish someone else would release a Panzer 3A because, like, I love Interwar and the early Panzers.
Yeah, this was a really good kit.
There's not enough.
Yeah, so this is going to be done for the magazine. It is going to be integrated with the reference article as well, discussing earlier Panzer 3s. So my goal is to use as much of the kit as possible while also integrating my own types of upgrades. So the kit fenders are going to be used for this because no one else makes fenders for this kit, so you have to use them, but they're not bad. And the mud guards, the front and back, which is vastly different than the other Panzer 3s, are interesting, but they're nice. So you can actually put them on open or closed, not workable, but you can put them. They're molded separately, so you can show them on or off the model, which is like up or down, I should say. So it's pretty cool. So,
Ah,
Oh
yeah.
hell yeah!
right, and if you look at the middle bottom, those are all the Aber tool clamps that were made for the tools. So that's like the
Are
money
those
shot.
workable as well?
What's that? No,
Are
no,
those
I don't.
workable
Believe it
clamps
or
as
not,
well?
those are not made workable. So
Ah.
Oh.
those aren't made workable. Now, this is not something that I'm working on now. I just wanted to show. This is how it's similar to the Samoa. This is the R35 from Tamaya as well.
Oh yes.
So
Also
this,
known as Tamiya's best model
yeah.
ever
So
produced.
this model was done using totally retextured all the areas that needed texturing. But all the photo etches from the ET models upgrade set, as well as ET models tracks, workable tracks. That's what
Nice.
this kit is. So
Splendid.
this is gonna be done in an upcoming article with. I did the build, obviously, and the paint job is going to be done by John Bonani. So he's painting it. I gave it to him at Amps. So he's doing the painting article. I'm going to be doing the build article. So this is going to be in an upcoming issue. I don't know when, but it will be. This was a great little kit. This was actually a model that I started building this after Amps 2023. Once I came home, I was all itching to build, and I loved this kit, and I knew it was easy. It was originally supposed to be built out of the box, but we see how that changed quickly.
It's definitely one of
started it.
those that are like nicer to build out of the box, but those upgrades that you've done are really nice.
Yeah, this kit is something like this. The Samoa, the Charby. These kits don't really need to be upgraded. That's what I always start off with saying that. Even with the Stug, I know that Callum's going to show next. They don't. These models are beautiful out of the box, and the only reason why I do something like this is to challenge myself a little bit, but also maybe add something that you're not really seeing from other people.
Mhm.
So again, this is goes on to what I was saying before about doing things that kind of separate you or challenge you to do things differently than other people. So because not many people are maybe going to go, you know, to the 10th degree that I did with this kit because it really didn't need it. The kit tracks are good. They're not great, but they're good. The surface detail on the model is very good. Some things are better with the upgrades, but some things don't really need upgrading. They're good the way they are. So this was a fun kit. And
Oh yeah.
this is the late Stug from Ryfield's models. Now this is in this month June issue of Military Modelcraft. It's got a full 5-page build article. So the Samoa was 4. This is 5. The stuff on the top left is all the. I mean, it's the fire extinguisher, jack block. I kind of made it myself out of styrene, textured them. Also, all the tool clamps again. It's the money shot up top middle. Those are Panzerwerk design tracks. Actually, you can't really see in the pictures, but I also used return roller cones as well as the return roller wheels from Panzerwerk Designs. He's a great guy. He sent those things for me to use. The mantlet was textured. The Aber barrel was changed out for both the main barrel as well as the MG. I originally had the K59. I don't know if you're familiar with that company. Remote MG.
Mhm.
But it was fucking like 30 parts. And I can build pretty much anything. I kind of like put my hat on that. But I was like, it was like expensive too. It wasn't cheap. It was like $20 for this thing. I bought 2 of them. And I started building it and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing, man? This is insane. I go, I'm crazy, but I'm not this crazy. I go, I'm just going to sand the kit part down. It take me I mean, as much as I wanted to use it and say I used it, I kind of abandoned that very quickly. But
Yeah.
again, all the weld beads were done. You really can't see them in the pictures. You can probably see a little bit of them, but all the weld beads were redone and textured. Top right is the stowage, the little stowage or what do you call it, box. Now that's totally workable if I wanted to open it up, which is pretty cool. So that comes with the
Oh,
update set
nice.
from Ryfield. That's a Ryfield's photo etch set too, which is cool. You didn't put the picture with all the stowage. I actually made a stowage rack for this with a whole slew of stowage on the rear, and an ICM Russian Maxim guns on the back of it too. The other
Oh
thing too,
yes.
Yeah, the other thing too here in the bottom middle is the chain that's on the lock device for the gun, travel lock device. That's A-line chains, A-line, A-Line. I think the website's ppw-aline.com. I think I'm wrong with that, but it's something like that.
I
And
use that all the time.
yeah, my buddy Steve Santucci. Yeah, they're good, right? My
Oh,
buddy
very good.
My buddy Steve Santucci actually gave me a set of these. I loved them. I ordered more. They're some of the best chains I got. This is the smallest chain that they make. I use them for the rear shackles as well as the travel lock. They're like what
It's
they
like
call
a
40 links per inch.
Yeah.
That's the
Shoo.
size of that. So they're
a model
really-
railroading thing is what they started out
Yes,
as.
the model railroading, right. So this whole model was redone with Ava photo-etch. Now, the Scherzen brackets were a bitch because, again, these were not made for the Ryefield model. The update set comes with photo-etch Scherzen brackets, but they're not that good. So I'm like, fuck it. I'm using Ava. So I even though it took me a little more time to adjust and try to get them to fit the model properly, it was worth it. And the tracks are from Panzerwerk Design. They're excellent. If anybody needs good 3D printed tracks, Panzerwerk Design, outstanding tracks. You won't be disappointed. These tracks, I literally made these tracks in under an hour. That's how quick they were easy to make.
Holy
Gone
crap!
are the
Nice.
days of model casting. I still have like 60 plus sets of model casting tracks because I used to hoard them back in the day because I knew one time they would be hard to find. And this is before the days of 3D printing, where you had to actually clip those tracks off of sprues and sand them, and it would take days to make those tracks. Gone are the that's a change. You want to know about another change from back in the day? 3D printed tracks. Fantastic. This was a fun kit. Again, this is an article in the next issue of Military Modelcraft. I encourage people to go on Pocket Mags or get a issue. It's a good issue. Actually, Andrew Argent is the on the bench interview in that magazine. It's awesome. So there's also an amped spread. It's a great magazine. So check it out.
Harrison?
Pacific Theater.
All right.
Huh?
Yes, gentlemen. So it's towards the end of the podcast. We've got a Pacific Theater group build going on. Started March 1st, ending September 1st. So you still got some time to buy some stuff, enter it. We have a recreational as well as a competition submission section. So if you'd like to submit for a competition, there's one prize. It's a really good prize. Go ahead, shoot what you got. We've got a Discord with all the rules, information. You can submit your stuff, see what other people are submitting. Have a good time. Then we got a science fiction group build, same time frame, except this one's just for fun. No prize at the end. This one's just for people who want to do something kind of different out of the norm and have some fun with it.
All right. And then after you've finished this episode, I would encourage you to go check out Rob Ribb's podcast, the Modeling Insanity podcast. Him and his guys are really good. They're really good to listen to, as well as all the others. You got stuff like On the Bench, Built Sideways. I was going to say Sprue Cutters Union, but not anymore. They're not going to be making any more for a while. They're going to be on a hiatus. But Model Geeks, just making conversation. Definitely go check them out. Go support James Skiffins. He's currently got quite a few heart conditions going on at the moment. So any support you have, go and show it to him, and hope him to get well soon. Because we're all rooting for him. And as usual, at the end of the podcast, we like to thank our Patreon supporters. Our Pinju supporters are Paul Gallagher, Lord Floki, and Robert Judson. And our Pinju followers are Robert Brisbane and Brielle. Fuck me, not again. God damn it, I barely speak English. I can barely speak English, let alone Italian. Brielle, for God's sake. I feel like if I pronounce it wrong, I'm going to insult them. God damn it. Is it Mastaroni? I don't know. I am so sorry.
It is not macaroni.
Whoever.
This is entertaining.
Whoever this, I am so sorry.
This is funny. Watch him have a breakdown.
Oh, fuck you.
I'm more than certain Mr. BM is having a grand old time listening to this. Probably laughing quite a bit.
Yeah, and then unsubscribing from Patreon because of it. Oh, dear Well, those are our Patreon supporters, and Jesus Christ, I need to have a lie down.
Get you a couple beers and you'll be able to pronounce it.
I've already had a couple beers. I think that's the problem.
Oh, shit, very well.
Now that we've got all of that sorted out, well, I'd like to thank Rob Riv for joining us for this podcast episode. We really enjoyed having you on, and would definitely like to have you back on for another.
Dude, I had a blast,
future
man.
episode.
Anytime. I love it. And maybe we'll do listen, maybe we'll do a crossover show with the Insanity guys if you guys are up for it. I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Well, it would be fun.
Yeah.
Oh,
Totally
yeah,
down.
definitely.
Just let me know, and we'll get it set up, and we can do it here. We could do it through us. We can do whatever. It's whatever you want to do. We have I think it'll be a good time. A lot of fun.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
thanks for
sounds
having
good,
me,
man.
guys. I had a great time.
Thanks
Cheers,
for being on, man.
And
Yeah.
any more words from Garrison or Clint before we close this out?
Thanks for watching, gents and ladies.
And since he didn't say it, titties.
Oh,
Titties.
shit.
All right. Well, if you have made it this far, you have been watching and listening to the Micro Machines podcast. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts, and we will see you in the next episode. Thank you.
See ya.
Deuces.
Later, guys.